And we are live, I believe.
We are live, are we?
Hi, folks.
Is that accurate?
I think so. It says that we're live.
We are live.
Hey.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our live watch-along of the Lions squad announcement. Sorry, we were a wee bit late, but so are the Lions.
That's it. We're kind of watching. I don't know if you have the same stream that we do as well, but we're watching and listening to Warren being chatting about how great the experience is, and Tommy Bowe as well, and all of this, and then Brian Habana, and we still don't know the captain. We initially thought we were gonna just wait until the captain was announced and go live then, because we know the way these things go. There tends to be a bit of filler in the middle, but we still don't know who the captain is just yet, and Warren is still chatting.
And on the original itinerary, the captain was being named 20 minutes later. So listen, hello to everyone who's joined us. The Sin Bin has been on, saying he's preparing himself for a taste that is English tears, and it is this funny dynamic that does go on between the four tribal fans. There's so much sort of elbow jostling going on amongst fans. And there'll definitely be some tears once the squads are named. Hello to John McGarry. Thank you for joining us. And hello to Starleo, our number one fan, who's always in with some class comments. Yeah. We will be reading your comments throughout the show as well. And we'll also read a couple that were in our show the other day. And obviously in the main, we're going to be reacting to the news about the Lions. When it comes out, we'll be giving our sort of our take on who's unlucky to miss out and who deserved to be in, and what's the story with the captain. Just as soon as we have that info, and obviously we'll get just some audio of the screen, or at least a little bit of the screen, onto the screen when the squad is being announced.
Something like this. But there's Warren, so we're going to leave him to it for now.
Yes, indeed. Somewhere along the line, we'll find out the captain, and then we'll have we'll have reaction to that as we go as well.
Oh, Leicester as a bolter, says Falcon. I don't know. Any other bolter shouts that you suspect? I did see someone sticking Kieran Frawley and some other Leinster fan like us, but no, I don't know.
Yeah, it's that last back row place, isn't it, that everyone's talking about, Sam Simmons, and well, obviously that was the Telegraph report yesterday.
Yeah,
you've been you've been had there by Mo Leicester.
Mm-hmm.
That's you've been baited there.
Have I?
You have.
All right.
Say it really fast.
Mo Leicester.
You got it.
Oh no, that's gonna get us demonetized, lad. What are you doing?
Yeah, so we're obviously waiting on hearing the squad, so there'll be a wee bit of filler, and just a couple of comments that we had on the show yesterday, which I feel like we can respond to now.
Yeah.
Just in the interests of filler itself. So we had Doddy Ishmael saying, you only get value from Johnny Gray if he's starting. The thing is that he will work for 80 minutes, not missing a tackle. He won't have the same impact that he would usually have off the bench. He doesn't see him ousting Alun Jones or Itoje from the starting positions, so he'd only be there as a backup if one of them went down. Gats will want his third lock to be an impact player or a versatile player, in the hope that his two starters will do 80 minutes, and his bench lock will cover 6. For this reason, he thinks Gray will miss out on the initial selection whilst being the third best lock. But if Wyn Jones or Itoje get injured, he might be parachuted into a starting test.
Yeah, it's an interesting take. I concede with the thought that he has. Johnny Gray is a kind of one of those workhorses that you only get value from if he's kind of there putting in those 20 plus tackle stats and stuff for the course of a day or a game, and like, would he be as much bench impact as the likes of even a Tyg Byrne or a Tipperick type? I can see where he's coming from, but it seems very harsh then if you're bringing no Scottish locks as a result.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Johnny Gray's an awesome player, but and I actually think he will go. I like his heft. I think the heft is a big differential. Like, you're looking at Adam Beards, and Tyg Byrne is such a back row kind of player.
Mm-hmm.
I think what might count against Gray would be Biggie and Henderson, because Henderson's a very similar player, very physical, very good on the carry, but can play 6 as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely think, I don't know if Ian Henderson's going to get in. I know the Telegraph had a leaked squad yesterday, and it didn't look like Henderson was getting in, but he would be definitely a potential bolter. Leo's asking, are we watching the stream on Sky Sports or the British and Irish Lions? I think they're the same stream. I mean,
I believe we're on the British and Irish Lions one, or actually,
we have a captain. Have we? We have a captain. I see. Yes, we do. We standing next to the
who's that guy?
There.
Does anyone recognize this guy? Any of our Welsh subs?
Yeah, unsurprisingly, we can reveal or have revealed to us that Alun Wyn-Jones is the man.
Yeah.
Named captain. Any surprises there?
Not really at all. Yeah, no, they a little unlucky for Itoje, who was the other one close, running in close, but yeah, tough to complain. He's captain fantastic, sure, and he was brilliant this season.
Yeah, himself and Warren Gatland with a long, storied history together, and yeah, I'm delighted for him. How many tours has he been on? I'm not sure if he was on 2009,
sure.
But he's been one of the iconic players from the Northern Hemisphere over the last decade, and a fantastic leader. Makes a lot of sense to stick him in. There's no fear of it.
Yeah.
And he is a front runner for the Test shirt as well.
So probably him and Itoje, unless you want to move Itoje to 6 and get another hefty lock in there. But yeah.
Mm. So Alun Wyn-Jones. There was no Bolter captain, no Stewie Hogg.
No Stewie Hogg, no Johnny Sexton, no Owen Farrell. The other ones, no Ken Owens, who else was on the bookies odds.
Yeah, no, not happening.
Yeah.
It was all about Alun Wyn, and there you go. There you have it, folks.
So one of the great mysteries of this live stream has been revealed. We know that it'll be Alun Wyn-Jones taking the Lions to South Africa this summer, but the squad we will have to wait for. I'd imagine there'll be a little bit of preamble prior. So yeah, the first non-shock is revealed.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I think it makes sense in the context of just he's the guy who's the most experienced at doing media.
Yeah.
He's the guy who they're going to rely on to do all of that sort of nuts and bolts, and he's an old veteran, storied head.
Yeah,
like I'm not sure how much value the captaincy is really and truly when you've got so many leaders, is my thought. Like,
it is that media duty thing that you're talking about. There's a fair bit of that goes in. You're going to have to be the face of the franchise, if you like, in terms of the few weeks that the touring party are over there.
Which is why Itoje might have been an interesting shout.
Yeah.
But by and large, Alun Wyn-Jones is very safe hands. And there'll be other leaders there, and there'll be guys who'll captain midweek teams. I'd be pretty confident that Itoje might get a chance to captain the Lions on one of the midweek ones.
I'd be
surprised if that doesn't happen at some point. But yes, there you go. Alun Wyn-Jones, captain, fantastic, unsurprising beginning to it. And then obviously we're waiting on the rest of the squad. We have one of our 36.
Yes, indeed. So now only 35 men left to be named in this squad. And for those who probably saw our midweek kind of podcast earlier in the week, we went through all the candidates in thorough enough detail as well. So there are definitely guys putting their hands up, and there will be guys unlucky to miss out. But who do you suspect? Who do you have a notion will get in, or who will miss out, who will be unlucky? Yeah,
absolutely. Any questions that you have, guys, you can pop them down if you are interested in asking us while we're waiting on the squad. And we got a couple of other questions just under the main show. Doddy Ishmael again had an interesting take. See, I had said on the podcast that if they're going to bring Marcus Smith, who was who was rumored to be going at the top of the week. And I was saying if they bring Marcus Smith, it might be to leave behind Russell. He might be just a wildcard option. But Doddy Ishmael is saying he thinks he's wrong about that. He thinks if Smith goes, it'll be because they're sort of committed to going with the Russell and Smith as sort of starter and cover. Speed. And they'll be very much committed to the fast run game, move the box around, which it'd be a lovely romantic option if they did go that way. Yeah, I'd find it very hard to believe. I think for me, Bigger and Farrell are very, very likely to go.
I think so too. Yeah, and I think Farrell's the one who's there a little bit more on reputation than form, but Bigger's pretty undeniable. Like it's Six Nations winning 10 and was also in it and is
and can play a run game.
Last time he played the box was the semi-final and he played brilliantly. All of those reasons, Bigger should definitely be on the plane and is probably front runner for the Test team.
Absolutely. No question. Kevin Willis came in just saying Sexton won't last an hour before he gets injured. I'd have Bigger any day. Farrell will go. I'd love to see Marcus Smith, but Russell will go. He hopes Chris Harris will get a go now that George North is injured.
Yeah. there's potential for him too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a little harsh on Sexton. My pet theory with Sexton is that ever since he's Lancaster got him into NFL, he started to feel a bond with Tom Brady from afar, and he's modeled himself on Tom Brady, and his form has gone parallel with Tom Brady. I mean, Tom Brady had that great swan song season with the Patriots, and that was 2018 when Sexton won World Player of the Year. Then Brady and the Patriots fell off a cliff, and so did Sexton's form in 2019. And now Brady's back with Tampa Bay, and he won the Super Bowl, and Sexton was the best 10 at the Six Nations. So he's for me, he's dialed in. He's dialed into old man Sexton. And,
he has been good when he's been on the pitch.
He's playing very well. There is that fear with the injuries, and especially the way he tackles.
He holds himself. He still plays a physical game. That's kind of the issue. Like with a lot of 10s, like even George Ford, who is in the conversation, like they'll hide him and he'll be on the wing, and every now and then someone will run over him like a speed bump because they'll find his channel, and you kind of have to root him out. Whereas kind of Sexton will very often lead the line and be very high in the contact and try and hold a guy up, which is courageous to a fault for a 35, 36-year-old 10, to be honest, but it is physical. And when you have a background of concussion and not even a background of concussion, just 2 head injury assessments in the last month or so, it could serve it could be no harm for take the long sabbatical as well and come back and try and have a go for a World Cup. But definitely, I know Sexton for a fact. Sexton will be waiting on this. I'm sure he's probably watching the stream as well.
Yeah, exactly. He's probably desperate. Starleo says Bigger should start, Russell on the bench. I think that's the consensus at the moment.
Yeah. And then if that goes completely wrong, then in test 2, you flip it.
Yeah, and what I will say is that, for me, once the squad is named, all bets are kind of off. There's so much talent out there that it's going to be mostly form based. Yeah, into I don't think there's
where it is right now. Yeah, if Bigger looks awful or gets a knock or any of that,
or just if Russell lights it up, also and it's just his passing game is on song. You could see him wearing the 10 shirt.
I think between the Japan game and then that crazy run of games that you were listening off in the main podcast, where it's like 3 and 4 day turnarounds.
Everyone got to go.
The Sharks and then the Invitational and then South Africa A and then the Stormers or something along those lines. And it's a constant rotation, and there will be it's only a 36-man squad, so they'll all get minutes, and surely there'll be at least one injury, touch wood, but there will be. So even though this squad announcement will be made, the guys who are on the periphery will be kind of just waiting in the wings, and could be parachuted in, as has happened on pretty much every Lions tour for the last during the professional era.
Yeah, exactly right. So we will be all to play for when the tour starts. We are, as just a reminder, we are waiting on the squad announcement. We have some news already that Alun Wyn-Jones is the Lions captain. I have in my ear here his dulcet Welsh cadence going on in the background as he's being interviewed about it.
To reveal that he is still socially distanced interviewing over there on the live,
socially
on the
distanced
mainstream
camera work as well. They're not giving
very,
him any zooms.
Very wide shot.
We're waiting on him to wrap up, and then obviously we'll get the news about the whole squad, which is where all the stories will come in. Mm-hmm. And obviously we have our whole list of candidates and everything as well. And as it goes, we'll get that up on screen for you. You'll be able to react sort of live along with us. And we're waiting. When that happens, we'll go through all the positions and who was unlucky to miss out, etc.
Yeah.
Next up,
Gavin Hastings and Sam. Sorry, I have the stream in my ear interacting. I was half expecting to hear Bill Beaumont come on now.
So we're still waiting on that. We had a couple of other questions. Alun Wyn-Jones, Bladen Rees coming in yesterday with Alun Wyn-Jones as a certainty for the test. He's had another great Six Nations. Itoje is a penalty machine, so he would have Alun Wyn-Jones over captain, which is what they've gone for.
Yeah.
What I will say is that Itoje I wouldn't worry about. The penalty machine thing from the Six Nations was way overhyped.
It was that one. It was the Wales game, wasn't it? That they were all a little looser, and then he showed in the France game his merits when you trust him, to be honest, trust him and to get a run of games and a bit of form, and then he becomes a penalty factory rather than a machine. He produces a load of them for his team with monstrous plays. Now, I think those two are certain starters, Alun Wyn-Jones and Itoje. The only debate in my head is whether you put them both in the lock and make that your robust lock partnership to take on some of the biggest locks in the world and in the Springboks, or do you move Itoje to 6 a la Courtney Laws and bring in another hefty lock? which is another option.
Who would be your guy then if you're doing that?
I don't know. Could be Big Dean Henderson. Could be Richie Gray.
Johnny Gray.
Johnny Gray even.
Richie Gray
is a bit way down the pecking order. I think Cummings might be ahead of him in the pecking order. But Johnny Gray is potential. But I suspect it probably will be that lock partnership of Itoje, Alan Wynne, and then you have someone like Ty Byrne or someone at 6. And either between, I think it's an interesting debate as to whether who starts, Ty Byrne or Tipperick, because I think they're very similar and they'll both be occupying one back row shirt and one number 20 to kind of rotate.
I would agree with that. And I think that makes a lot of sense. And Byrne probably on the bench just because of his versatility to cover lock as well.
Yeah, although Tipperick off the bench, I've seen him do great things off the bench before. Even in an Osprey shirt coming back from injury, I love his hustle. He's like, it's nice to have a guy on the bench who's attributally like quick like that. You know he's going to make an impact if you're tired. And then you just like the trust I have in Tipperick, the faith I have in that guy. He should definitely be going. I am prepared to be I would be shocked if he is not named in this squad.
Tipperick
I'd just absolutely be gobsmacked.
I tell you were saying Jay Davis as well, which could be an interesting one. The rumor is that Davis is going to be left out, which would be interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
After backing him over board. Any shocks, lads? Says the Simnil. Well, this is the thing. I personally have a couple. For me, the last back row spot, no matter who gets it, is going to be controversial.
Yeah, well, there's just so much quality in that area that you're going to be omitting some great guys.
I even think a guy who hasn't been talked about at all, like Peter O'Mahony, if he was to come in there, could shine on this tour. Just given his form, it's really great. Watched him recently dismantle Leinster.
And he's also a guy who's like, when he's in an Ireland shirt, he's a leader that they have to go to, and he wears that responsibility. But if he's in a Lions squad, then maybe he's only playing 20-minute stints in the midweek game and having to fight for his position.
Yeah, and he's just got that chip on his shoulder. I think O'Mahony could be a very interesting bolter. But the rumor at the moment is that Sam Simmons gets the nod. Obviously, I was saying on the podcast the other day, Jack Conan would be a favourite of mine. I'm a big fan of our Irish sort of dynamic forwards. Kelleher would be another one that I'd love to see go.
I think it's their best attribute. I've seen a few, like Rory Best was picking a team and he picked like 2 forwards and 4 Irish backs. And it's like, wait a minute. We're dominating every game up front and not doing anything with the ball we got.
It's definitely a curious one. Yeah, Conor Murray's getting an awful lot of credit. So when his form compared to a lot of his Irish compatriots isn't the same. But I suppose Lions stocks at scrum half are a little lighter. Which is helpful.
One shock that loads of people are picking teams and picking Gary Ringrose in centre at the expense of the likes of Jay Davis, and I would find that very surprising on the season's evidence. Like I really like Gary. I've enjoyed watching him for years. I'm a big Leinster fan, but I think this season has been pretty poor from him, and I would be.
It's been ropey. He struggled. He struggled in offense. He struggled in defense. He was not great at the Six Nations. Then he was injured and he came back. To be fair, I was very poor against Munster the other week, but he actually had a decent game against La Rochelle.
He did, yeah.
And he's still, this is the beautiful thing about a squad like this from Gatland's point of view, is that they do all have the potential to hit the ground running. They're still, even in the questionable calls, there's still talent to burn.
Yeah.
And then it's just a question of how you use it, what combinations you find, and can you get them, up to speed enough to take the field on the last day. Yeah. The other thing that I'd say that's a huge dynamic on the tour is using the full squad over the course of 3 tests isn't an unwise thing.
Indeed. You're not. The notion of dropped is a bad one, because if you pick one back row, especially back row unit for test 1, you probably shouldn't pick the exact same back row unit for test 2. Just knowing how attritional a game against the Springboks will be
on a back row.
Like,
100%.
You're not going to guarantee if you're expecting to pick the same 3 players for 3 tests 1 week after the other. You're going to get diminishing returns if you don't rotate that.
Everyone who's picked in the squad has a very decent chance of starting at least 1 test, I would say. Yeah. And I think that you need to have that. I think it's one of the great strengths of the Lions, the absolute depth that you have to choose from from 4 different top-class nations. Mm-hmm. You're almost wasting it if you're just looking at 123 or 115, especially a position like the back row. You could go with, whatever, Ty Byrne, Curry and Falatau 1 week, and then Tipperick, Navidi and Hamish Watson the next week, and they could be equally effective. Starleo's just come in and said the toughest calls for me are who the scrum half choices. We weren't so hot on Ali Price in the podcast. We weren't, and then I
do agree that he has a really good chance of making the tour all the same.
Yeah. Oh no, he does. I mean, there were moments where I really liked what Ali was about. I remember the game that Scotland were playing against Wales, when
Dink kick over the top
when
for,
after Johnny Gray cut the line, he put in a beautiful little dink kick. He's had the second half against England when they were 31-0 down, and they came back in that game back in 2019. Like, Ali Price was majestic, and he has real classy offensive chops. He's just a little inconsistent for me. That's what holds him back. And that said, the other scrum halves, there's quite a bit of inconsistency. Like, if Thomas Williams is going to go, I've seen him be brilliant, and I've seen him flapped as well.
Yeah, sublime and ridiculous. I've actually seen each Welsh scrummy flip between the sublime and the ridiculous as well.
And all struggle with the boot. And Conor Murray, talk about inconsistency.
Indeed. Well, like, I know what they value in Murray is well, the Lions pedigree. I know Warren will trust the guys that have been there before. That's kind of credit that stands in his account. He's quite a different scrummy from all the other options in terms of his acumen. So if you want to do two nippy halfbacks plus a Conor Murray, that seems to make sense. And then it's a question of who in those nippy halfback roles.
And it's such an open position that this is such a big day for so many scrum halves, because you were even talking about like the likes of Ben Spencer. There's certainly the likes of John Cooney. I know he picked up a knock at the weekend, but if he's okay, if he could be named provisionally, like, I think that jersey is wide open. Whoever gets in the squad has a great chance of, if they hit some top form, finding themselves starting a test match or two.
There's no kind of Faf de Klerk or
here we go. Lions squad
Smith to pick from.
You can flick us on there and unmute the stream.
I'm gonna hold
off on unmuting the stream. You see the host of the stream there for the Lions was like, now it's time to reveal who's in our Lions squad. And I was like, oh, here we go. It's on, boys. It's on.
Start.
And now it's a montage, of course. Yeah. The slow reveal is certainly something else. I wonder how they'll do it. Is there are the players up on Zoom? I don't know how they'll do it.
Will they just have a little kind of PowerPoint presentation that they were getting? Maybe that's the delay. They're trying to work out some quirks in PowerPoint for their presentation.
I'm kind of getting Mike Wazowski'd here by the little screen. I'll try and move in. But yeah, you'll get our reaction anyway as they name the squad itself, and then obviously we'll have the bones of the conversation will be about who missed out and who's good to get in, and the combinations of play. Yeah. All right, let's see. You can unmute us there.
21 British and Irish Lions squad for the tour of South Africa. I would like to take the opportunity to thank our partners.
Okay, he's thanking his partners.
He can might mute us there just in case Canterbury and Vodafone might want to pull us up on something.
Simmons just
Alun, nice shirt sponsoring the Lions.
Yeah. Have you seen the jersey is like €110 or something? Yeah. They released it the other day.
I'm happy enough with my yoke.
South
Africa 09.
That was the 09 jersey that Shane has.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
To announce the touring squad.
Here we go.
The 2021 Lions Tour.
Alphabetical order coming right up.
No, they'll do it by position. The backs. Josh Adams in.
Rugby, Wales.
He was, Bundy Aki. Wow. Telegraph League was wrong. Dan Bigger. Bundy Aki. That's no Gary Ringrose, I'd say. Elliot Daly. Interesting. Versatile. Garrett Davis in. Yeah, makes a lot of sense for me. Front runner for the starting jersey now.
Owen Farrell.
Faz in. And they have him listed as a fly half there, but of course versatile. Chris Harris. Congratulations, Chris Harris. Great Six Nations is rewarded. Henshaw, yeah, likewise. I thought so. Stuart Hogg, yeah, not captain, but in there, front runner for the start and fullback jersey. Conor Murray in.
There you go.
Interesting. He was never going to miss out. Ali Price, that's your
three
scrummies.
So there's three scrummies in.
Garrett Davis, Ali Price, and Conor Murray. Reece Zammit, yeah, always going to front runner to start on the wing. Finn is in. Oh, it's been great for Scotland already.
The Scots
it's been great for Scotland already. Oh, this is great stuff for the Scots.
And Van der Merwe.
Duhan Van der Merwe. Oh, gravy. Oh, the Scots are going wild, boys. Anthony Watson gets in. That's bad news for Johnny May, I'd say. Liam Williams,
Williams,
unsurprising. Going to push Hogg all the way for that fullback jersey.
And now the forwards.
That's it. That's the backs.
That's the backs.
No Johnny Sexton, obviously.
Munster Rugby.
Ty Byrne,
Burn is in.
Ireland.
very versatile, quality player.
Jack Conan.
Jack Conan! Oh, that's great news. That is great news. Jack Conan is brilliant, guys. That's a great shout.
Luke
Luke
Cowan-Dickey.
Cowan-Dickey, interesting. That's the
Bad
death
news
of
for
the
Kelleher.
Kelleher dream, but I'm chuffed with that. If
Tom
Keane Healy
Curry.
gets in now, I'm happy.
Tom Curry also in.
Tom Curry, unsurprising.
Fagerson.
Xander Fagerson.
Xander Fagerson is the third tight head. I thought he had a chance,
Tulepe. Faletau.
Faletau,
Out.
Rugby. Wales.
very interesting.
Tyke Furlong.
Tyke Furlong.
Rugby.
Well, yeah.
Tis your field.
Mhm.
Jamie George.
Jamie George,
George.
great shout. Nice heft in that front row already.
Yeah.
Ian Henderson.
Big Ian Henderson gets the shout. Correct calling. I love this squad so far.
Johnny Hill.
Johnny Hill.
Johnny Hill.
They're going big.
Johnny Hill is an interesting shout. And Atoji, there he is. Presumably they need to name Alan Wynne as well, given he's captain. There he is.
There he is. Yeah.
Wales.
Very interesting, isn't it?
Wyn Jones.
Wyn
Wyn Jones, yeah.
Awesome.
So have we two
performance.
loose heads, or is that the first loose head?
Courtney Laws.
Courtney Laws.
Courtney Laws.
Wow.
Scooby Doobious.
I didn't know. We didn't even mention him.
Ken Owens.
Ken
We
Owens,
did mention him.
Hooker,
The sheriff in town.
Andrew Porter.
Andrew Porter.
Leinster Rugby.
No, Carl Sinclair. We've had Xander.
Yeah.
Sam Simmons.
Sam Simmons.
Sam Simmons.
makes it in.
Wow. So that's 3 number 8s right there. Rory Sutherland, no Cian Healy. That's a shame.
Scotland. Justin Tipperick.
Tipperick
Justin
is there.
Tipperick, yeah.
Wales.
It doesn't look like Navidi either.
Mako Vunipola.
Mako Vunipola. Wow. No, Ellis Genge and Cian Healy, very unlucky to miss out. Hamish Watson. What a fantastic squad for the Scots. I'm delighted for them.
Good luck to all.
And that's it.
That's it. That is it. Wow. Well, we'll try and just piece through exactly what we've heard there. We can move on from the announcement there. We have it now.
I'll just mute him anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Wow. Interesting. On the face of it, there's a couple of picks I really like. I'm gutted for Cian Healy on the face of it. He's someone who the Lions tour has just never worked out for. Someone close to my heart. His form's been great, but obviously 2013 he had a bad injury. 2017 his form dipped and he didn't get in. And then 2021 now he hasn't been picked. So yeah, I'm a little gutted for Cian, but delighted for Jack Conan.
Yeah.
And delighted as well for all of those magnificent Scots.
Oh, here we have.
Yeah, I have the list of it here. As well. So we'll try and piece through exactly who's missing and who's.
Bundyaki is a crazy shout, you know.
Is he?
I think so. It's a crazy shout. He hasn't really even played this year. It's been Tom Daly for Connacht.
Well, we did note that the centre stocks were a little light.
Yeah.
And Aki, at his best, is
physical.
quality and physical. Good defensive player, good reader of the game.
No, I 100% like Aki's hustle. I just think it's a mad old shout.
Well, there's a couple of interesting shouts in there. There's a couple of interesting shouts. Obviously, it wasn't named in any order of position.
Mm-hmm.
There was no, So we'll do you know what we'll do is we'll go through position and just piece out who has been selected. So at loose head, we have Rory Sutherland, Mako Vunipola, and Wyn Jones.
Yeah.
With Cian Healy and Ellis Genge, the two who would be good.
Be unlucky to miss out. Porter is also on the plane, and there's always debates about him flipping.
Yeah, you got 3 loose heads. You don't need Porter to play loose heads.
Yeah,
so those are the 3 loose heads. And are you feeling a bit
aggrieved on Cian's behalf,
or on Genge's behalf, or are you
both
happy with those 3?
I would worry about Mako in terms of the last time I saw him against the Springboks, he got mushed and he hasn't been in great form. And Rory Sutherland, while having great form, did his shoulder and looked very, very dodgy in terms of making it back to the plane. So it's like, I'm delighted for Sutherland. I think his form over the last 2 years does warrant this call up. But in terms of just recovery, like he's been a few weeks now out of the game. He's had a shoulder issue. He's going to be straight back into scrimmage against South Africans.
At his very, very best, Rory Sullivan's a phenomenal scrummager.
No, I have less fear for him in that scrum than I do for Xander, to be honest. Xander's form, whatever about the injury, has not been as good. I would worry about him lining up against a hefty loose head from South Africa.
Tight heads, and I just want to look at this squad and make sure I'm right here. There is no Kyle Sinclair.
There are two Irish. There's Porter and there's Tyg Furlong, who will be front runner for the test, and then there's Xander Fagerson.
Fagerson
getting in there.
Porter and Tyg. Yeah, that's it. Wow, I'm a bit shocked at the lack of a Kyle Sinclair, I must say.
Yeah. I feel like
Sinclair has the handling game, the slickness. He's got good aggressive scrummaging.
He got injured in that World Cup final. We didn't see him against the Springboks, and we won't again.
Well, that's a shocking one. And he was a guy who I had prior to that World Cup ranked somewhere. Like, he was in a category in my mind of just shithouse kind of players like Va Mahina and what's your man's name from Argentina and Leicester, that clownish player,
Lavanini.
Thomas Lavanini. These guys who were just absolute penalty card
generators.
Card machines. And Sinclair had a bit of that. He had a bit of the red mist. Yeah. But for me, he's kind of put to bed those demons and gone way beyond even the level that I thought he was at or capable of. And he would have been a great shout. But for the three that got there, Xander Fagerson, he's hefty. He at his very best, he is a fine scrummager. He can really lock down the scrum. He can be an aggressive scrummager from tight head. And I think a battle between him and the likes of Kitsoff would be very interesting. Porter has great bench impact.
Yeah, he does. He will likely be on the bench, I reckon. Porter, just for that versatility, has a jackal game in him. He's useful impact. Once Tyg is juiced out, because it seems like Tyg Furlong will be a starter. But in terms of the hooker, then they opted for the two English lads. So Cowan Dickey and George got in hooker, and along with the sheriff, Ken Owens. Don't know who will start there. I'd lean towards Jamie George currently, just for scrummaging.
George would be my start, not just for scrummaging. He's a fine scrummager, but he's a wonderful player in the loose. Great in the carry game.
No, they're all awesome players. Yeah. That's where I'm kind of looking at the scrum as going, this is going to be where this game could be decided. And just judging by who they picked in the lock, like the heft they picked in the lock, Johnny the Hill of Tara, Johnny Hill, massive man that he is, got in. Big Ian Henderson got in. Courtney Laws even got in.
Papoose is in. He says, no Billy V, I'm fuming. Billy V was interesting. She got Sam Simmons, but Billy V was an interesting one. I don't think he was ever going to go. I just don't think his form was good enough.
No.
And there's just the back row stocks are so stacked. The one I would feel initially, we're going through the squad and we'll arrive at some others, I'm sure, that we haven't even considered yet that have been missed out. But the one that's screaming out to me is Kyle Sinclair from an English point of view. I would have been thinking crazy.
Yeah.
Papoose says Scotland dominating the front row fairly so. They have two. They didn't get any hookers. They didn't get Cherry or Turner.
Who were awesome, but they did get their first choice guys.
Loose and
tight in there on the plane, and they were awesome all tournament long. It was only the Irish scrum that really did for them at any given point. To be honest, they were excellent in Paris and in Twickenham.
The Scottish stocks have been great, and as you say, those are the tight head options and the hooker options. Jamie George be a front runner to start from them. Looking at the locks now, this is where things get interesting.
They get very meaty.
So we did have Maro Itoje, we had Johnny Hill,
we had Captain Alun Wynne.
We had Captain Alun Wynne, we had Tyg Byrne. I don't think we had Ian Henderson, and don't think we had James Ryan.
No, we had Courtney Laws.
Courtney Laws and Tyg Byrne as sort of hybrid players. Very interesting. The ones who were lucky to turn out. We didn't have Johnny Gray, we didn't have James Ryan. But delighted, massive congratulations to Ian Henderson. I'm chuffed for him. To Johnny Hill, who I thought was very touch and go. Didn't think he'd make it in, but he's a very fine player. And as you say, heft. Informing the decisions.
Guys, I can see you can already get an insight into what Warren's thinking.
Certainly in the tight five.
Yeah, he wants the heft to match these guys, and nearly even, because we know they're superlatively strong. So that's it seems to be have informed the decisions for just the mold of lock. Like we've often remarked when picking Big Ian Henderson for Ireland that he is kind of like a South African lock. He looks a little bit like Lou Diaga or something, just the way his carry game operates and stuff. And similar things with these other hybrid props. You have hybrid locks and guys like Johnny Hill, freak specimens. Maro Itoje, the engine on him. Versatility, as you were saying, is playing.
Yeah, well,
this
is Papooses' remark. He's come in and saying like they Scott's got the props who kept Kyle out, which is definitely very interesting. But he says it means 1 out rugby and no ball playing props. I don't sort of. Tadhg Furlong's a ball playing prop 100%,
and Porter is too.
Rory Sutherland isn't really. Mac of Vunipola can be, but what they are is very good scrummagers, and Jamie George certainly in that front row.
He plays brilliant handling. He's a lovely guy to have in amongst a shape like Saracens had him.
You might need to get a charger here, bro. The machine isn't plugged in here. They were talking about tons of hybrid players, and I'll tell you the reason why Shane's going to go off and rescue our thing. Like, I'm looking at the schedule, and a lot of people were saying, they've got to select the shorter squad because it's the schedule is only whatever they say 8 games instead of 10. In fact, if you count the Japan game, it's 9 games, and it's the 26th of June. 7 days later, 3rd of July. 4 days later, they play the Stormers on the 3rd of July. 26th of June, they play Japan. Then the Stormers 3rd of July. South Africa Invitational on the 7th of July. The Sharks on the 10th of July. 3 days later. 4 days later, South Africa A. 3 days later, Vodacom Bulls. And then you have the test games each a week apart. Like, I think when you've got only 36 players to choose from, versatility's at a premium. I don't necessarily agree with all the decisions. Elliot Daly does seem a bit of an interesting one. Laws seems an interesting one. Daly does seem a bit versatility is huge. And like, even you're talking about Andrew Porter, like if they're going in a COVID bubble and they lose a loose head, it might be a pain in the hole to get someone else out there, and Porter could be great at filling in. And I definitely think they seem to have valued those kind of players, even Ian Henderson over James Ryan, like that, and Johnny Gray. That's like perhaps a deciding element, is that Henderson has played quite a bit of rugby at 6.
Yeah. And also, to be honest, that's form as well. If we were being brutally honest, Henderson had a better Six Nations than James Ryan and has been in better form since too. So there's definitely aspects of form. That's where I would question the wisdom of the Elliot Daly call, to be honest. I know it's versatility. He plays wing, centre, fullback, and kicks long goals. That's what's getting him in there. But I to be honest, I haven't loved his performances over the last year. So
who's this?
Elliot Daly in response to thing.
No, yeah, he was definitely an interesting shout. And Papoose is saying that Furlong and Mako are the best, certainly ball playing props. I would definitely agree. And Mako has a very high ceiling as a player as well. So if he hits top 4,
if he hits form, then great. It's just the issue that the last time I saw him against the Springboks getting munched. It's the same with the Billy V thing. I know you're aggrieved at Billy V, but the last time we saw him against the Springboks, he got absolutely pulverized.
It's revenge time. So yeah, those were the locking options. Yeah, some of them, Johnny Gray and James Ryan, would have been the headline misser-outers, but probably suffered for lack of versatility. And Courtney Law's in there, very interesting.
That is interesting, isn't it? Yeah,
at his best, a very fine player.
Yeah, but, kind of blindsided me all right with that one. Yeah, he was there on the last tour.
I heard he was injured. That's why we didn't mention him. I was kind of like, he was in, and a bit like Joe Launchbury, he was kind of in the conversation and then out of it because he got an injury. But Rory Sutherland injured as well. I guess they just think, hey, it's the 6th of May and we're not going till July, so it'll probably be fine. Yeah. Very interesting. Very interesting.
Where are we now in terms of breaking down? Are we going to the back row?
Yeah, we'll go to the back row, where obviously stocks were magnificently high. I mean, I'm not sure what we had said yesterday. We had said
that we said that Hamish, Curry, Tipperick and Falatau all definitely had to go, and they did.
They did.
So that much we knew, and then we were kind of up in the air. It could have been 6, could have been 7 with the hybrid guys that they had in. Obviously
we went Sam Simmons and we went Jack Conan, which really delighted for. Interesting, like Simmons and like Conan is such a pure number 8.
Yeah, he was similar to Falatau. Yeah, he hangs out in the wide channels, gets his hand on the ball, and can link. And really well.
And Simmons plays a similar game. Starleo saying it's great to see Simmons in there. I tell you what, Simmons has been making headlines, but Jack Conan's form since he's come back has been phenomenal.
It's true.
And the way he outplayed England in that game changed Ireland fundamentally from a distribution point of view as a back rower. And then the week later against Exeter, outplayed Sam Simmons comfortably, man. And
actually, the whole Leinster back row did kind of a job on Sam Simmons. I was surprised to see him go, because initially a month ago I was thinking he will go Sam Simmons because in a kind of prickly, well, Eddie, if you're not going to pick your best number 8, maybe I will. Yeah. As that kind of prickly thing that he can definitely do and has done now. But the showings in the Champions Cup kind of flipped me away from it, because I thought in both Exeter's showings since the Six Nations, both the Leinster game and the previous one, can't remember who it was against. Leon, that's right.
Yeah, no,
I thought
Simmons didn't play
he
great.
was bottled up really well by both of those sides.
I tell you what he does have. He has real clip at turn of heel. He's great in the wide channels himself. But when you look at that back row and you see Faletau, Conan, and Simmons, 3 guys who play pretty much exclusively number 8, I think one of them, and probably Simmons, is going to have to shift to 6 and try and become that sort of hybrid player as he used for the coaches. But definitely very interesting at the back row, very exciting players, attacking players. And I'd say there's a lovely, like when you look at the potential of guys like Tipperick, of guys like Tyke Byrne, Conan and Simmons, it's matching that sort of big hefty tight 5 with some rangy back rowers who can be used dispersed all over the field, which I think makes a lot of sense. Like on the face of it, I like the balance of the pack.
Yeah, same. Gone with. I can understand what he's trying to do, and there is a fair bit of like just pace in that back row if you were just to combine the ones that he has picked. There's no real big lumbering kind of big enforcer type number 6s. There's no CJ Stander who we were talking about.
There is Tom Curry, and
there is Tom Curry, and he will have to do a lot of that grunt work, either him or if they end up doing a Courtney Laws at 6 or a Maro Itoje at 6 kind of idea.
Ian Henderson at 6
Ian Henderson at 6, the big hefty lad to do the kind of grunt work, tackle machine, and then allow your Conans, your Faletaus, your Tippericks, your Burns to operate a little wider and try and move the pill. Because then with the scrum half selections, they have nippy guys. They will be trying to move the pill, I reckon, as well.
Yeah, looking at those scrum half options, Murray went, Garrett Davis went. There was no Danny Kerr bolter. There was no John Cooney bolter. There was instead an Ali Price as the third choice option. No Ben Spencer either. Yeah. On the face of it, the balance of it, it's not. Well, no disrespect to the guys involved. They all have decent, very high ceilings.
Ali Price is he a lefty? Just trying to think in terms of left foot,
I've
right
definitely
foot.
Seen him kick with both feet.
Yeah, so that's why I'm trying to think which is best foot. I'm not. He's not a great kicker either. Neither is Garrett Davies. If they're going to kick it all, it'll be the Murray show. But,
and Garrett Davis's boot isn't great, but the scrum half options are interesting. On the balance of the pack, Starlio's come in just says he thinks it's a very good forward pack. I agree on the face of it. Not too much quibbles. Like I'm talking, like James Ryan's unlucky to miss out. Johnny Gray's unlucky to miss out. But to be honest, if I was picking a squad, I don't know if I'd pick those guys because their form's not good. Like the head-to-head between James Ryan and Ian Henderson on form is no brainer. It's Ian Henderson.
Yeah, that's true.
But so we looked at those scrum half options. It's sort of middling. It's unsuspected. But Papoose is moving us on because he wants to talk about Sexton dropping C-bombs and F-bombs, as I'm sure he is. Listen,
the C-bomb he's saying is courageous call, Warren.
Yeah,
I respect it.
I'm good at firm.
I am good.
Everyone in the universe seems to hate Johnny Sexton, but like obviously we're Leinster and Ireland fans. We've grown up with him. Like he's given me some of my best ever memories of the rugby fields. I was at the comeback.
We were both there. Yeah,
at the comeback in Northampton or in Cardiff for
Millennium Stadium.
And I really do rate Sexton's bottle. Like I think if he'd have gone on tour, and I still think if he gets called up, he's going to be like he's going to deliver. I do believe that he's delivered for Warren.
It's still not that far fetched that he ends up like at 10 getting a knock from a very bullish South African number 7 or something, and then having to leave the tour is like not far-fetched at all. So like a lot of these guys who've missed out will be still waiting at the phone because a lot of them will call up. But in terms of the 10s that he did select, which is the normal thing, there's Kev. How are you, Kev?
Always.
We need to drop that in every single time if we can at all.
He's just so bitter that he wasn't there. He was at the final we lost to Saracens at Newcastle with me.
Some more storied memories.
Yeah, but Johnny Sexton, you wouldn't fear for him. He's a
you do a job.
I'm a little gutted for him. The injury came at the wrong time.
Yeah,
let's be real. Like he was the top point scorer in the Six Nations. He was in flying form. His reading of the game is stellar. His running of an offense is stellar. His kicking game is off the tee has been on a level it's not been all year.
The differences between Leinster with him and Leinster without him is night and day.
But the problem is Bigger's form was a little better.
Yeah, and he's a similar player.
Yeah, Finn Russell is just a game changer.
And he wanted Farrell because, again, it's the versatility argument. He wanted Farrell there because you can flip him out to 12 if they want to do the dual-wielding double distributor, which they very well might. So it was a versatility call, which has been a theme throughout all of the from the pack, and we'll get in further into the back line as well. guys who can double job or play multiple positions have been the beneficiaries.
Yeah.
And Finn had to go, as we said, we were alluding to.
So
Finn had to go.
Farrell had to go because he was that option at 12. Finn had to go because of that game-changing, game-breaking, passing, offensive rugby.
Mm-hmm.
And then
it was
a shootout between Bigger and Sexton,
winning
and
10.
Bigger won.
It's tough to argue. I think Bigger will be great value. I think he is my front runner for the test start currently.
Yeah,
but that could all subject to change. There's potential for it to be a bigger Farrell axis with maybe Henshaw outside them or something else entirely. But Finn Russell off the bench is what we were alluding to earlier on. There's also potential for just going gung-ho, Garrett Davies, Finn Russell, let's go. Mix it up.
I love it. I would love to see it. And there's scope for all kinds of combinations. Looking then just at the centers, the center options, this is where things got super interesting. I mean, we were talking yesterday that the centers were the like very much the interesting option, the most open ones, and perhaps where the stocks aren't strong. Like I was looking at the Aussie centers and thinking, gee whiz, they might be stronger.
Previewing the Super Rugby AU final and thinking like, geez, any one of these centers could start for Lions.
Although Hunter Paisami was injured, I didn't realize at the time. But the ones they went with, very, very interesting. They went with Chris Harris. Obviously, there's the Owen Farrell option. They went with Chris Harris, Robbie Henshaw. Who were the other ones they went for? Bundy Key. And then who was the last one? And it wasn't Jonathan Davis, I don't think. So it was Chris Harris, Robbie Henshaw, Bundy Key. There was no Cameron Redpath.
And there
was Elliot Daly. Was he listed as a centre?
I'm not sure. He was listed. They just did backs, but maybe.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Remind us if there was any other centres named people.
So Aki, Henshaw, and Harris with Daly as an option,
and Farrell as an option. Yeah, and no Redpath, who I think is unlucky.
No Ringrose, no Slade.
Was there definitely no Slade? I'm just looking for him here. I don't think there was a Slade, was there?
No.
Yeah, no Slade.
And no Jay Davies.
That's curious, isn't it? I'm delighted for Chris Harris. We have a couple of other comments like Leo saying Sexton's really good, but if you want Bigger as your main guy and Russell as someone to spice things up, there isn't any room for him.
That's kind of, that's what I'm thinking.
Papoose saying he doesn't trust Finn against the power of the back row of the Saffers, but that's the whole point, is that Finn might be necessary to get away from that power.
You don't want to run into the power of the Springboks every time. That way lies madness. You want to get around them.
Yeah, I like the idea of the Springboks are so aggressive on D. They're just so wildly aggressive, and they have like their Peter Steph comes flying out of the line, and Am comes shooting. Delindy comes shooting, and Mapimpi from the World Cup was coming in like miles off his wing. The All Blacks were the only team to get outside them, and they did it with like flat cross kicks and
fizzing passes.
And fizzing passes. And Finn is the guy who has that skill set. Mm-hmm. We've seen him do it on big occasions to big teams, and I just think against that aggressive blitz, you might need that option at the very least on the bench, so that if you are getting sort of just destroyed by that defense,
you can bring in Davies or Ali Price and him off the bench to get things moving and change your game.
Yeah, so Papoose is talking about solidity in attack and defense. Solidity is fine, but you need that option. And then
solidity could just lose. If you're trying to be a solid, bludgeoning Springbok-esque team, you're probably going to lose to the Springboks.
Oh no, I agree. Yeah, and that's where I am with it.
But the best antidote to Springbok rugby in World Rugby is All Black rugby, and it was thus at the World Cup as well. They didn't meet in the final.
You lot are so idealist. How do you think we're beating the Springboks? By out scrumming them? I definitely think you need to be able to attack. The other option is the sort of Dan Bigger bomb. Let's play a game. Which is useful.
That's how Wales nearly got there. Yeah, but nothing was quite as emphatic as the All Blacks kind of soaking their pressure and then striking instantly and being able to convert tries.
Yeah, you say match the power, then go wide. But when you have the ball, the issue with that, is it's not so much about matching the power. Like Tadhg Furlong runs into Franz Malherbe, goes nowhere. Itoje runs into Peter Steph, goes nowhere. Like, you actually have to be able to, off first phase, get out wide. And when you have a very smart defender like Lekanyo Am, he very much cuts off your options. You're going to be kicking a lot of ball, or you're going to be going for that killer pass. And the only guy who has it in his locker is Finn Russell. So to me, to say that you can't give Russell the shout against the Springboks is just removing a really valuable tool from their arsenal.
Indeed.
But we're going to park that debate, Papoose.
No, I agree. The earn the right
time.
to go wide adage is an old school one, and you do learn it under 15s, but it's not always true. You see some folks who need to earn the right to go narrow in certain matchups.
On the defense,
it does depend on the defense and the shape that they're getting. You can have a team that are holding their width, and then you're kind of flicking wide, and then you have to punch through, or a team that are blitzing narrow. Like most Six Nations teams as well. You can see a lot of narrow blitzes, and it's the one team that has the gumption or the guts to go 2 passes deep that get outside them.
Ball playing forwards definitely do.
They do matter.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah,
and then so where were we? We were talking about the centres. So a lot of guys unlucky to miss out. I'm gutted for Cam Redpath. I really thought he'd be an interesting bolter.
I kind of knew it wasn't going to align for him. Just if he'd got a run of games in the Six Nations, maybe, because he was very, very impressive in the Calcutta Cup, and he's been impressive since returning for injury in the Premiership, but just not enough minutes.
It looks to me like my front runner for the starting centres is Farrell and Henshaw.
Yeah, I think so.
And there's a decent balance to that, because Henshaw's at his best when he's at 13 and he's not doing distribution.
Yes.
And that's an out half in there, a passing option like Faz.
Dual distributor. It might be a blueprint for Ireland to follow going forward, because I like he defends the 13 channel as well as anyone, possibly not Am, because Am is brilliant at it as well. It's a very interesting matchup, but Robbie Henshaw's a fierce defender.
Yeah, Daly for me is the most odd choice.
He is to me as well.
Again, versatility. Again, he's an option.
Is what you would argue, but I would argue that he's he plays centre, wing, and fullback. But at the moment, for the last 12 months, none of them particularly well. So I don't know. Is he going to be an option on Test match day? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe though. At his best, he's a fine player. Likewise, Chris Harris and Bundy Aki is another very curious one. But if they find form in the preamble, you could definitely see some of those guys going in. I think the Daly call is there because if Farrell goes down, you're looking at Harris and Aki as not really distribution options. So Slade is a very much
distributing
13.
No,
that's what I'm saying. Sorry, Slade is, but Daly got the nod. Daly's a distributing 13, but my head went to Slade because I was thinking if you wanted that option, why not go for Slade? But I guess they're thinking, hey, he's back 3 as well. He's a big boot and at altitude. He's got all these little weapons. He could be this towards Lee Halfpenny in terms of just slotting kicks from 60 meters at altitude. He does have that.
He does have that. That's a big attribute for him. Bundy Aki, instead of no Manu Tuilagi as we were suspecting.
He was the injured guy who missed out. Bundy's inclusion is interesting. At his best, he's a fine player. His form's not great, but everyone was giving Ringrose the nod, and his form has been very poor. I'm happy for him. He's a lovely guy. He's great value in a dressing room on a tour.
I believe that.
He'd definitely be, as even if he's a squad player, he'll be just tremendous value.
Midweek lad. He'll definitely be great value. But all enthusiasm. He is great. For Connacht, watching some of his big plays or his encouragement of some of the other guys making big plays is just the kind of guys you do want in a touring dressing room like this, because you want to galvanize a squad as well. I don't think he's a front runner for the Test shirt currently at all. No. But it's an interesting inclusion, and congratulations to him. It was something that completely blindsided us as an option. And
at his best, a very fine defensive reader. Can jackal at the breakdown. You never know if he finds form. You never know. Then Zanzea is coming in making my point about Daly only more succinctly, just saying he makes sense because he might not be on great form, but he covers 12 to 15 and he has an accurate penalty kick from 60 meters, which in South Africa is huge.
That could be from 70 meters.
You talk about a team with as good defense, at South Africa at their best, phenomenal defense, but at their worst, loose discipline-wise, good goal kicker.
Managed to successfully up the pace and to ask some questions, they will give kickable penalties away. So having a goal kicker like that, definitely good value. And then obviously Farrell and bigger, all good value in that regard. So goal kicking acumen is not something that we're lacking for.
Especially when Russell is gunning for a Test jersey, because Russell's place kicking is definitely the weakest part of his game.
It is. It's the job. He doesn't do the job for Racing, and when they force him to do it for Scotland, he's not great at it. So
Leo coming in saying he doesn't mind that Aki's there, but obviously doesn't think he'll be starting, and I think we're all kind of agreed on that. Gatlin knows it'll be a 3-fest. It could be a 3-fest as Papoose. Looking at the defensive stocks on show, absolutely it could be, absolutely, because both teams, you look at Henshaw and Am and potentially
they could cancel each other out completely.
Could be just all D all day, and then just a kick fest, and that's where your biggers come in and such. But definitely interesting.
Experts.
Curtis Taylor's coming in to move us on to the back 3. Good man, saying Duhan van der Merwe is very justifiable. A lot don't like him because of queries about his defense, but you need a huge, powerful ball-carrying winger who just gets over the gain line. I definitely agree.
He's Six Nations top try scorer, probably should be getting in. You know, you can
wingers,
make all kinds of reputational arguments for wingers, but form and tries. That's it. Like, it's something we as Irish want to see the Irish adopt as just the way to pick wingers, which I think the All Blacks get it the most right. Where you can have a guy like Sevu Reece light it up for a season, form dip just a fraction, even though he's scored a load of tries for you. And there's another winger who's lighting it up at Super Rugby Aotearoa level. Get him into the All Blacks jersey. He may be 21 years old, whatever. He's scoring tries last week. He's in. And that was Duhan at the Six Nations. He was scoring tries. Same with Louis Rees-Zammit. These guys were big don't argues of a selection.
Oh yeah, 100% for me. I agree. Those two had to go. The others, obviously, we had Hoggy and we had Hogg and we had Liam Williams as fullback cover. Liam Williams, of course, could start on the wing yet.
He could.
And then obviously Anthony Watson got the shout in.
Another argument for versatility. It's your friend Johnny May misses out because of it. Another fine winger, but Anthony Watson plays fullback for Bath, can play wing. I think wing is probably his better position.
I agree,
but he can cover things.
Yeah, no, exactly. Just in case one of the two main guys goes down. Stuart Hogg was never in doubt, front runner for the Test shirt, but Liam Williams will push him all the way.
Yeah.
And then there's Josh Adams as well, who's also just a lethal try finder.
Yeah.
In probably slightly better form than Johnny May, and it is form that costs May. Although personally, I think May would have been class on this tour. I think he would have been unreal if he got the shout.
Yeah.
I think he's a super player.
Yeah.
Remember him torturing us in the autumn. Certainly, if you were to imagine last autumn that Johnny May wouldn't be on the plane, you'd have been like, "What?"
Yeah. Are we going to do our patriotic duty and pretend that some of the Irish boys were unlucky to miss out, or are we just going to skip that entirely?
No, we talk about that in the context of the forward pack. Always, indeed. There's more Irish options in the forward pack, but our back line was, barring Italy, the worst at the Six Nations. So you can't, outside of Henshaw, you can't really make the case for many. Yeah. Murray was lucky to go, on form. Yeah. Bundy Aki lucky to go. We've done better than we've done better than we would have thought. I'm not sure about the breakdown as per nations, but I'm delighted, I must say, for Scotland, who seem to have
do well out of it.
Done really well.
Better than maybe our hypothesizing the other night.
No, it's just they usually get screwed. And I've been following a few Scottish heads on Twitter who've just been assuming that they're not going to get
the
anybody.
Worst and you'll never be disappointed.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm sure they're chuffed to bits with how the squad has gone for them. I do like the balance of the team. Like looking at it, I definitely think there's scope for good attacking rugby. Like if you're looking at Bigger, Faz, and then maybe Russell to come on off the bench, Bigger and Faz at 10-12, Russell to come on off the bench, Henshaw's your defensive linchpin, lethal wingers, like whoever you go for at the moment, probably Rees-Zammit and maybe Josh Adams or Duhan or Liam Williams on the left wing.
Liam Williams on the left with
and then Hogg at fullback. I mean, there's huge potential in that back line.
If you have Bigger, Hogg and Liam Williams in your back three, you are safe as houses under the high ball. And potential to counter-attack as well. So, there's a lot of things being ticked off here.
Papu says Adams over May is bollocks. He's very animated at the best of times. I think it's tight. I think it is tight. Adams does have just an eye for the try line, and I don't think you can argue
what a winger is. What's a winger for? I never like going like, you can't pick this winger. His defense is not certain. And it's like, does he score tries? Yes. Okay, then.
Yeah,
it's like the flip side where you're going like, this tight head is great at passing, and it's like, does he lock down a scrum? Like, no, but he's great at passing. It's like, well, then he's not going.
Yeah, like your first job is definitely to grab the tries when they're there, and Adams does that really well.
Yeah,
as Zanzea is saying, with injuries to the Welsh Nines, the form Price has been in since the 26 Nations. He's not surprised by his inclusion. Mm-hmm. I definitely can see that. Price is at his very best is a fine player. Like the scrum half selections were way open. And to be honest, you were right to say, like, Kerr would have been a wild shout.
Yeah.
It would have been interesting, but it would have been a wild shout.
Yeah.
And there's definitely scope for South African back rows to give him something that he hasn't been getting in the Premiership.
Yeah, exactly. And the Premiership, the ferocity of defences in the Premiership isn't all that. It gets found out at European level, and it definitely, the South Africans will be bringing a different thing.
We're getting a couple more comments. Curtis Taylor just saying... Curtis is having his own conversation, but having Duhan as an option for inside balls coming off 10 is a scary thing. Yeah. I definitely want our wingers to be wide. I don't want them to be running down blind alleys. Obviously, off first phase, you've scope, but the inside ball is not something that works against the box that well, so it's not somewhere where I'd go. I also think, we have to be realistic about this. Like Doohan bumps off everybody first time. Like even Ches and Colby, he's just not going to bump off a Springbok. Like they'll tackle him.
Yeah,
that is the nature of it. The wingers need to be put in space. Like they're not going to make something from nothing. Like it's all about what they can do in space. And Doohan is a fine player, but like I would have Josh Adams ahead of him right now.
It's subject to change, but yeah.
Papoose wants us to talk about name our starting 15 if this 37 is all fit. It's 37, not 36. That's interesting. It's Courtney Law's wild inclusion. I'll just bang one out, and you see if you disagree, just off the top of my head. What are our loose head options? It's Sutherland, Mako, and who was the other one?
It was
Wyn Jones.
Wyn Jones.
For scrummaging acumen, I go Sutherland. Then I go George 100%, Furlong 100%, Alun Wyn and Itoje.
There's so many big locks to choose from.
This is the thing. I think different starting 15s for each game is going to make sense because there's such talent. But we'll say for now, why don't we say Biggie and Henderson, Alun Wyn, Itoje at 6, Tipperick at 7.
With Byrne on the bench to come on.
Faletau at 8, except Conan might take that jersey off him if he plays unreal, and that would be unreal to see. And then Ty Byrne or maybe Sam Simmons on the bench, depending on form. Then your back line is, I think Gareth Davis to start. What was I saying? Bigger than centres, Farrell and Henshaw. Back 3. Hogg at fullback. I'll go Liam Williams on the left wing and Reece on the right. Yeah, that's my starting 15.
Yeah, it's not a tough one to disagree, or it's a tough one to disagree with. I don't know if Sutherland's struggling with fitness, then maybe you'd put Wyn Jones perhaps in, who's been the form guy of those 3. To be honest, he's been the form guy. But I would worry most about his scrummaging against these Springboks. I don't know how that matchup will go for him yet. We haven't really seen it yet for him, but he was awesome in the Six Nations if he can bring that kind of hustling form and menace at the break.
Yeah, and just the carry game, the work rate, all of that's class. David Farrell has been in. He just wants us to touch base on a couple of Irish ones. Aki's inclusion,
awesome for him.
I'm delighted for him. I think he is a class character, and I definitely think that helped him. It is a bit of a wild call. He hasn't been playing any test rugby, hasn't been in great form.
It's been Tom Daly for Connacht most of the times that I've been watching this season. He hasn't really played that many.
He's been
games.
On the sideline cheering them on, as he will be on testing.
Maybe that's the value. It's like what you do see some of those actually like Bongi and Banambi for the Springboks. He was on the bench all tournament long, giving great face.
I definitely am delighted for him, and I think he is quality as well. Like the centers were so open, nobody was that convincing.
No,
Slade over Daly over Slade, I think is. I understand it because of all the tools in his box.
It was blown wide open when George North went limping off in that Rainbow Cup game as well, because he was the only one that I was certain was himself and Henshaw.
He would have been the plan.
North. I was looking at a Henshaw North combination in the outset, but then North
and arguably Farrell Henshaw has a better balance to it. But I like gutted for George North obviously, but that did blow the centres wide open. And Bundy is as good value as anyone on his day. He's fantastic, really competitive. David's just asking, did I miss your comments on Ryan and Sexton? We kind of like Sexton we did talk about a bit, and we were saying like basically his he was unlucky just because of the nuts and bolts of the squad. His form is excellent. Injury came at a bad time. Bigger's form is off the chain. And you got to bring Russell for the X factor, and you got to bring Faz for 12 potential, and then you've just only got so many you can choose from.
That's it.
So it was unlucky. But James Ryan
less so. Yeah, I was delighted for Biggie and Henderson because he's outplayed James Ryan in every match this year, and Ryan hasn't had a run of games. He's been in and out with injury, and to be honest, he hasn't been wholly impressive when he's been back there. He's been awesome for the last few years, but like even going back to that Autumn Nations Cup game against England, he got absolutely monstered by Itoje. Every single play was a losing one from him, and you haven't seen him be the indomitable force that we saw from him in the last couple of seasons. So it's just a form thing, and there are a lot of he's picked so many big locks that it was always going to be tough to get in if you're just a specialist lock.
Yeah, and to be honest, like Ryan just hasn't been the enforcer that we thought he might be. Like he had that great run in 2018 where he was getting loads of wins, but he hasn't quite kicked on how we might have hoped. Like we would have had him in 2018 when he was bursting onto the scene, we would have had him like, oh, this guy's going to be, just like a new Sam Whitelock or a Toji. He's going to be our answer to a Toji. And he's lost virtually all of those battles over the last couple of years. He hasn't really got the dexterity, the ball playing. He's very, like, when you put him in a screen, he trucks it up 90% of the time. And he does usually go forward, but it's kind of slow. And he is, like, you're starting to see there are bigger guys than him. Will Skelton completely monstered him at the weekend.
That's right.
Like, there are bigger guys than him, and he hasn't really added the extra tools to his game. He doesn't call lineouts for Ireland. Like, those things counted against him. And while I do like him, I think he has another level to go before he can get to the real top that we thought he was going to be at a couple of years back. And Biggie and Henderson has been flying for him.
Awesome. Yeah. Just one of the comments there, I see Nick Garrity saying, what clues to the selections or omissions give to the likely game plan? Yeah, I think we were alluding to this before, like the type 5 and the selection of a load of locks who can dual wield and go in the back row means that, the scrum and set piece are a big focus for locking down. But then some of the pace in the back row and the fact that Faz is there who can flip to 12 leads me to believe that they're going to try and move it about a bit. They have Murray as the kicking option as well, but they're going to try and use some of those back row carriers and stuff out a little wider from the contact, try and get outside, find the edges against the Springboks. Don't compete with their tight defence if you don't have to. Try and move them about. Yeah,
exactly. Trying to match them up front is definitely huge. As you say, there's a load of forwards in there, a load of versatile options. You could see 3 locks selected. There's potential to just select a massive side that isn't going to be scrummed off the ball. But then the few ball playing back rowers are really exciting, and you're going to look to see those guys getting in the wide channels. Like Conan lives in the wide channels, loves it. Falatau the same, Tipperick the same, Sam Simmons the same. Like, there's 4 guys right there who can be really explosive in the wide channels. And then you have a bunch of guys who can play really tight rugby. A 6-2 split on the bench is something that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, that's true too. Especially if you have guys in the starting team who can play either position and stuff.
And Courtney Laws, is an interesting one as well. Like, he's very much, he strikes me as just an extra guy because he's tough and because they're a bit paranoid about, not being able to bring extra guys on tour and how difficult that might prove. And Laws is just a tough guy who'll slot in anywhere if someone goes down injured. So I definitely value that selection as well. But size in the tight is definitely
Johnny Hill, as Dave Farrell saying, Johnny Hill, whose form has been sketchy, but he is just a big man mountain of a man, and therefore he's going. So there's definitely you fear getting blown away by the Springboks' power, of course you do. So in the type 5 especially, you want that heft. The surprise exclusion we were saying in that type 5 in the context is definitely Kyle Sinclair, because the ball playing forwards and his scrummaging acumen, you definitely want to see him there. Like, unlike all the other English props, we haven't seen him yet get monstered by the Springboks because he went down in 2 minutes after that in that World Cup final with an injury. So we didn't really see how that matchup works. But he's the one that I would be surprised in terms of missing out. But the rest are there for heft reasons. In the type 5 especially, they want to match them there, do the fundamental job of trying to get your set piece right. And then you have guys like Price, who Sand is saying delighted for, nippy scrum half, going to try and move them about.
If he gets his form, he needs to maintain tempo. Like, one of the things that really irked me about Scotland in the Six Nations was just in moments they kind of mismanaged games. They looked a bit tired sometimes and slowed down. I think that Wales just at the wrong time slowing up. Like, Price needs to dominate. He needs to be the big personality who needs to move the ball constantly. And at his best, he's very free-flowing and his highlight reel looks great. But then there's just moments in games when everything slows up and he's just kind of walking and he's lethargic. And then you can kind of get caught.
Sometimes him not minding the hill at the base of the maul, those kinds of little plays, which actually Gareth Davies can be guilty of as well. When the ball's in the maul, if you're going to maul it, scrum half, try and keep your hands and eyes on it. Like, please stop.
That's the funny thing about it back from all. Like, if I've seen Ali Price do that constantly, like where he's exchanging words with his 10, and then like the ball looks fine, you think it looks like it's there, and then
it only takes a second it's for a big telescopic Springbok arm to get his hands on it, and then it's done.
The nuts and bolts of his game do need a bit of work, but by and large, I think he's a quality player. And always got the potential to shine. And he wasn't one that we would have picked, but I think I said at the end of last week's show, if he does get picked, he could be class.
Could definitely make the test team. There's a lot of jerseys are still open on that test team because there's a lot of quality just to pick from. It's a really tightly packed 37-man squad with all good players in it, to be honest.
Yeah, Starleo saying he likes the Laws pick quite a bit. Obviously, yeah, I was saying that big for heft. Papoose talking about the 6-2 split being obvious, which you mentioned that, which obviously the hybrid backs come into play quite a bit there. David Farrell's just coming in saying Conan performance against La Rochelle got him picked. That's an interesting one because I was a little paranoid that he might not have done enough, despite I thought Leinster were kind of shafting him because he wasn't in the wide channels. He wasn't where he needed to be, and we lost the game as consequence.
He was looking a little like Kieran Reid in a losing All Black effort out there, where he's trucking it up one out from the ruck instead of being in the tram lines linking with wingers.
Except every touch was dynamic for him, and what I think got him picked was the combination of his performances against England in the Six Nations coming back, and then Exeter. And the fact that Robin McBride is in the coaching ticket.
I think that is a big factor as well. Leinster forwards coach Robin McBride is on tour. So and to be honest, Gregor Townsend there as well. So we were kind of piecing together. No, the Leinster guys weren't fully shafted, and nor were the Scots.
It's definitely value to it. But yeah, Conan, for me, Leinster have a huge amount of back row stocks. Caelan Darras has come through. Dan Levy, obviously, back in his day. Josh van der Fleer, Will Connors, Rhys Ruddock. For me, Conan has the highest ceiling of all of them. At his best, there's nobody quite like him in terms of he can marry physicality with speed and footwork and reads the game really well.
Yeah.
He needed to sort of bulk up and get sort of physically on the level defensively. And there's still scope for him to improve, and I don't know what it looks like if he has to tackle Dwayne Vermeulen.
Yeah,
maybe that's a problem.
Could be curtains, yeah.
But I definitely excited to see him play. I'm chuffed for him, really.
Yeah,
gutted for Cian Healy, but chuffed for Jack Conan. Is my main, as a Leinster fan, those are my main emotions.
Yeah, that's a perpetual feeling.
Yeah, everyone's talking about James Ryan and Johnny Sexton. Cian Healy way unluckier to miss out in my book.
Yes, unreal. I think Cian Healy should have been far closer to the reckoning than any of these other lads because his scrummaging's been on another level, and Ryan hasn't really been.
Yeah.
Sexton, we were explaining, there's a rationale that sees him missing out, and it's the one they've explored. I'm curious to see if Rory Sutherland can manage to get back to fitness. I think he should start in one of the early games. I wouldn't even mind seeing him play against Japan if he can at all, because he'll need a run of games to be able to face the Springboks in that job of a loose head scrummager.
Yeah, no question, and it's such an aggressive scrummaging position. And also, I'm just watching, if you're watching any of the South African rugby, Franz Malherbe, I think he's front runner for the tight head spot. Like Thomas du Toit is a freak as well, but Franz Malherbe is really strong, strong. Like good loose heads made look very silly by him. And so there's definitely fear there. Like that's my fear for Wyn Jones, to be honest. He was hustling really well and great in the loose in the Six Nations, and he wasn't
buying
a problem
a few
at the
technical
scrum.
penalties at the scrum. So he certainly got one from Xander, didn't he, at one point where he managed to get Xander to go down, but then once the game drew on, he was kind of holding it together a bit like all that Welsh scrum. So there's definitely risk there because the Springbok scrummaging unit is a different level. Sure, ask England about it in the World Cup final. You can see Dan Cole getting hoisted up into the air. There's danger there.
David Farrell also talking about Sam Simmons being very interesting. We've chatted about him. Very good rangy player. I'm delighted. You think there might be a bit of anti-Eddie Jones needling going on there from Gats?
I don't think. I know Gats going like, there's only one decision to pick. I'll pick the best English number 8. You mean Billy Vunipola? No, the guy that Eddie Jones is ignoring, He
definitely likes that.
He has exactly that kind of humor.
I like it too. It's like the Lions is definitely an interesting squad. I like the idea of always picking one who isn't playing Test rugby, just one kind of bolter from outside of Test rugby.
And it's a nice tradition.
And Sam Simmons is a good shout for that. Esan giving us a nice compliment, so thank you very much for that. David Farrell obviously pointing out Healy could still go with the Sutherland injury.
Of course,
it'll be Keane or Ellis Genge on sort of retainer.
Ellis Genge did his top no harm either in that showing against Ulster in the second half, especially. He was all over it, completely dominated them.
Dale Conlon talking about Trevor Nyakanye potentially as an option for the tight end spot. Yeah, Trevor, like pre-injury ahead of that World Cup, like there's definitely a narrative, an alternate history narrative, where Nyakanye was the star of that World Cup because his form going into it was unreal. And then he got injured and they won it anyway. But even Thomas du Toit, I'm not sure what his fitness situation is, Thomas du Toit, but at his best, he's a phenomenal tight head. Like Malherbe has been the strongest, but their options are so deep. They're so deep. The Springboks, they're almost as deep as the Lions. They might even be deeper than the whole Lions.
Considering the amount of European club rugby that is bolstered by Safa talent in all kinds of squads. And you're looking at there's an injury crisis at lock potentially for the Saffas because obviously RJ Snyman suffered a setback at Munster. Peter Steph du Toit is only just back from injury. Obviously, they still have big Eben Etzebeth, who's been playing at Toulon. But then you're looking at their club rugby, and you have little Rynel Hugo, who you've never seen in a Springbok jersey, scores a hat trick in 6 minutes from the lock position, and you're just like, oh yeah, well, even if their locks are always going to be great. Like,
yeah, exactly. They'll always have good locks. It was great to see Peter Steff coming back, mind you, and Pollard as well. It strikes me that they are going to be primed and ready to go come test time.
Yeah.
Assam's just coming in talking about May's omission being a big surprise. For me, it's not necessarily a big surprise, but it's like I'm a little gutted for him because I do think he's probably the most talented of maybe everyone there. But as you say, like the back three options are stellar, and like I don't have any fear for really any of them. Doohan, Josh Adams,
combination of all. Like what are there,
Reece
6
Samus,
going? You could pick many different combinations.
They're all lethal in space. They'll all take tries. They'll all fix and give. They all know, like they have wonderful attacking instincts, and it's just great to see back three options with wonderful attacking instincts. Pretty much 2-1.
Yeah.
Yes, Leo talking about that hat trick in 6 minutes.
Yeah, it's bamboozling.
We were watching it live, and we just like I couldn't believe that it was the same bloke, especially on the third occasion. Like, is that him again?
Yeah.
What's going on here? But 3 very different tries as well. But I was chuffed for him. He looked so chuffed. Papoose is talking about what will the SAFA prep be like outside of the European players. He says the quality of their Super Rugby was poor. In moments it was. Like they've played each other so many times at this stage, but I still think that I watched the Sharks playing. That was that game with Hugo's hat trick. The Sharks were against the Stormers at the weekend, and what I'll say is like Lucanio Am and Sia Khaleesi looked better than they've looked all year. In that game, recent
it's almost
game.
Like they're getting focused.
Yeah, so I think they'll be okay. I think they'll be okay.
I think banking on them being undercooked is not a good kind of game plan. You've got to expect a monstrous Bok pack to be coming at you, which is almost undoubtedly what's going to happen.
Yeah, Dale saying Thomas du Toit is fit, and he's also a class jackler, but that element of his game is stellar as well. Yeah, Thomas du Toit's really class. Like, it wouldn't surprise me to see him coming in on the bench as well. But obviously, you've Trevor, who can cover loose head as well. You've got Stephen Kitsoff. You got options for days.
So many options
from the South African point of view. And then David Farrell saying, no, Slade Stess, we're going for a power game. I definitely think
somewhat, but then the inclusion of
Elliot
Daly and Farrell as your alternate kind of option. It just means that you're locking down the 13 channel, which is the AMS channel, in terms of the defensive kind of robustness there. Excuse me, but you want to try and have distributors inside. That is what I suspect from that.
Yeah, and I think like
he is unlucky to miss out.
Slade and Harris and Aki covering behind Henshaw as well as options as well. It's very much about defensive reading. Yeah, like both of those guys are tough and good readers defensively,
and tacklers technically as well.
Those guys were definitely, that was the thought behind those selections, and just the fact that England with Ford, Farrell, Slade just looks too slight in the midfield. Yeah. That's probably the fear. It's like, well, I'm thinking about putting Faz at 12, then I can't really have Slade, can I? Yeah. Because it doesn't work in England. It's not going to work here for the Lions.
Indeed, it is. It's a bit directionless. It just, what they're missing is a big Tuilagi shaped hole in their midfield. And it's likewise here. We were even alluding to it, like he hasn't had any games at all. He's been injured since pre-Christmas. You could pick him on the plane in the hopes that he finds a bit of form, or that he's back from injury. But he hasn't, and probably right, because like an unfit or a recovering to fitness Manu Tuilagi, his game is to be that barnstorming physical presence. If he's a little bit off the pace, the Saffas will munch him up. Yeah,
there's definitely truth to that. Henry Penrose is asking who benches in the backline if they go 6-2, presumably Daly plus X. Like, I think if you're going with the squad that we named, obviously you've Liam Williams in there as potential fullback cover. Like, for me, it's interesting because you need centre cover, so you probably have to have Daly and Ali Price then, because you need scrum half cover as well. And I know Ali Price has actually covered wing before as well.
That leaves your Finn option off.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? So you could go Russell, but what do you have as centre cover then? Do you have who in the back line could fill in centre if you had to have someone? No, Reece Samet definitely couldn't. Hogg probably not.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one. Yeah, 6-2 split against these Saffas could be.
Yeah, I've seen 6-2 splits go right and wrong is when you start picking up a load of injuries. I definitely like Russell. You mentioned I definitely like Russell as an option, so it's interesting. Could you take a punt that someone can cover scrum half? You can't really. Scrum half such a specialist position.
You sometimes
Can
see
hog-
little nippy
yeah.
wingers go in there for sin bin periods and do okay.
Yeah, that's it's a fair question. I'd
Yeah.
have to think about it. I'd probably personally, if I was picking the squad, I'd go 5-3 just for safety for that reason. Because Leinster were trying it a few times this season.
yeah,
They
it was
tried
terrible.
6-2 splits, and
Never
every
worked.
time they
the
got
first thing that
injuries,
happens is the centre gets a knock, and then you're like, oh, well, don't we feel silly?
Yeah. It's a curious one, but I definitely want Russell on my bench as a potential to change it. Just if things are going wrong.
Yeah, you definitely want, it's the 23 man. You want your bench to all have impact. You don't want anyone there who you have no intention of throwing in there either. So
that's where Daly is, and it is an interesting one as well.
Does he either start or not be cover, or is he always kind of utility backman on the bench? Or
well, Daly's form could pick up, and then he's just such a goal kicking option that he might end up in the test team yet. You know?
Yeah, no, it's true.
A funny one. Listen, guys, I think that's about it from us. I think we've gone on for well over an hour now and given our reaction to the positions. Listen, thanks so much for your questions. It's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
We'll be back in due course. It's been a pleasure chatting to you guys. I'm delighted with the squad, I must say, on overall pictures. I have some quibbles here and there.
Curveballs here and there, but by and large, it's a really, really good team with enough heft and enough quality to give it a real go against the world champs.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting series, isn't it? I just can't wait to watch it now at this stage. Thanks a million, Ed, for the commenters. Thanks a million to Henry, who's come in. Papoose, you've been great crack. Star Leo always. Nick, David. Thanks a mil. Esand, you've been great fun chatting to you. And we'll see you at the next one, which won't be too far away.
Absolutely.
And looking forward to the Lions series.
All right.
Lions.
Ciao. You guys.
Bye-bye.